And welcome back to another episode of the Sports Nerds. I am Dawson Livingston, and filling in yet again because of the reviews we had last time is the one and the only, the Braden, Mr. Braden Bacon. Braden, how are we living tonight? How are we feeling?
I'm doing all right, man. I'm glad to be back. Had a hell of a time last time. I guess I didn't do too bad because I'm back again. So
Hey, hey, we enjoyed you being on the first time, and we thought it'd be perfect because Brock's out of town this week, so we thought it would be a perfect fit. And man, we got a lot of stuff to cover this week in this episode. A lot of stuff has happened over the last week in the NFL. We're basically halfway through. We're just wrapped up week 9 in the season. We're getting ready for week 10. Trade deadlines passed. We're at the point now we know what teams are really good. We know what teams are bad.
mhm.
But yeah, I say let's get right into it. Some of the games that I kind of wanted to highlight and get your thoughts on. I want to start off with it's kind of in the past, almost a week now, but last Thursday night game, Houston loses to the Jets. Jets get their third win of the season, 21-13. Obviously, we're going to remember that night for the two amazing Garrett Wilson touchdowns that he had. They really put the Jets over the top. Uh, and the Texans' lack of wide receivers at this point in the season without Stephon Diggs and out, obviously, no Nico Collins. But what were your thoughts on this game?
Yeah. I was really high on the Texans going into this, and I was pretty low on the Jets. So uh, this was basically just one big I don't know what I'm talking about game. uh, yeah, I mean Garrett Wilson might have a catch of the millennium contender with that Jumpman esque in the back of the end zone. Just yeah, there's not words I can say to give that catch justice. But all around, I don't know what happened to Houston. Hopefully they can figure it out. Hopefully the Jets can keep it up. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean it's crazy that basically the two best catches I would say in the last 10 to 15 years have both come in MetLife Stadium. Kind of random, but kind of wild when you think about it. We obviously referring to the Odell catch, which has already been 10 years, I want to say, which feels like way too long ago.
It
And
was 2016, right? So about
I thought it was 14. I thought it was
was
his
it
rookie
14?
year.
I don't know.
Regardless, it's been a while. It's been a
Long
few
enough to make me
seasons.
feel old.
Right. And then obviously last Thursday night we had the Garrett Wilson uh crazy jump man catch. Was it a catch? Was it not a catch? I'm in the realm of if it's cool, it's a catch. I'm sorry. That's where I'm at. Like if you almost got the catch and it looks really cool, that's a catch in my book.
Listen, if I can put it on a poster, it's a catch.
Right.
I don't care. I think the George Pickens catch the week before should have been a catch, but listen, I don't make the rules. I just
Right.
go off vibes.
Yeah, and I guess my second question I wanted to ask you is are you concerned about the Texans at all? With being 6-3 and they don't really have a true wide receiver that they can I guess other than maybe Tank Dell. Because in this game, I'll pull up the stats here, but I think CJ really only threw it to Tank Dell. Yeah, Tank Dell had 6 catches for 126 yards. The next closest receiver was Robert Woods at 2 catches for 44 yards. Are you concerned about the Texans more, or are you just more impressed with the Jets and how they were able to pull this one out?
I think this was just the Jets were able to finally put the pieces together. I mean, you look at the Texans, you look at their division. I don't really think there's that much competition there for them. They're going to make the playoffs. The playoffs are just win when the time is right. So, I mean, they can afford to drop a couple of these games, but I definitely think this is more of the Jets just won this game than the Texans lost it. Texans definitely still lost it just because, not having your two best receivers are going to hurt, obviously. But yeah, this is just the Jets. This is Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers finally getting back on the same page.
The voodoo magic that they used to have in Green Bay, it's finally carried over to the Jets, which I think is what all Jets were hoping for, and I think we saw it before our eyes on Thursday. And it ultimately resulted in a win for the Jets, and I think they're second in the division at 3-6, which is wild. I think that just the AFC East outside of the Bills is really a crap fest, in my
There's just a
opinion.
whole lot
So
of mid right now in the
right, and
NFL.
I don't know, man. The way the AFC is shaping up, I think the Jets still have there's a realm where they could sneak into the playoffs. I think they could sneak in at 9-8 or 10-7, but we'll see. They don't have any margin for error these next 9 weeks of the season, 8 weeks
Yeah,
of the season.
the dominoes got to fall like perfectly for them to be able to make it in. But I mean, nothing's impossible any given Sunday, right?
Right. Yeah, no kidding. Next game I kind of wanted to highlight Bills and Dolphins. Bills win this game 30-27. Tua's second game back. So Dolphins are starting to get their offense clicking together. Tua went 25-28 for 231 yards, two touchdowns, excuse me. Josh Allen 25-39, 235 yards, 3 touchdowns. Did have an interception, but I'm sure you saw the interception. That was not on Josh Allen. I love Keon Coleman, but buddy, you got to catch that ball in the red zone.
Yeah.
So really could have had 4 touchdowns, no picks, but instead it goes down as an interception for the Bills, who now sit comfortably in first place of the division. Are we ready to call the Bills like true contenders, even though like they don't really have a true number one on the outside? I guess you could argue Amari Cooper, but who knows what Amari Cooper is anymore? With obviously him being an older receiver, obviously he's had some injury history that he's missed the last few games. But are we ready to put the Bills in that S tier of contender?
I'm ready to. I mean, I'm buying in. I think they're a really good team. I would not be surprised. I mean, obviously you got to get past your demons in Kansas City in order to be able to really put a ring on it finally. But I think they are a team that I would not be surprised if they could pull it off.
Right, and then I guess my second question for you for this game is, what's Miami do at this point in the year? 2-6. They have most of their team back. They have Tua, obviously. Tyreek's playing pretty well. Waddle's had on and off games. I mean, they found what looks to be a low-key stud in Devon Achane, a fantasy monster. Achane had 12 carries, 63 yards, and 1 rushing touchdown, as well as having 8 catches for nearly 60 yards and a receiving touchdown. So they found a late-round gem in him. But for the Dolphins, do you think it's too late in the season to kind of recover this one?
Yeah, I think so. I think there's just too much going on in the AFC East to just now be trying to pick yourself back up by your bootstraps. I mean, I know I just said the Jets can easily make it back in, but I think this season was kind of already packed up when Tua went down. You got him back. He's starting to figure it out again, but I don't know. This is kind of an offense that you need to be perfectly on rhythm every week or you're not going to win, and you just can't afford to lose your captain of the offense for that long.
Right, and I agree with you. I wonder if Miami, I'm not saying they look, I mean, I think for sure this offseason Miami has to look at an upgraded backup quarterback. I don't think you can try it out next season with Tyler Huntley or Skylar Thompson. Like, that's a non-negotiable for me.
Oh, for sure.
You also got to beef up that offensive line, I think. You can always improve the offensive line. I feel like if you're the Dolphins, you got to protect your asset in the backfield in Tua. And obviously, you're most likely going to have Tyreek and Waddle back this year. So, although this year might be, I don't want to say a throwaway year, it's certainly not looking promising. But hey, I still feel like the Dolphins can certainly compete for the next few years. Another game I wanted to get to. Lions versus Packers. Detroit wins this one 24-14. 2 of the NFC North's top dogs play each other. I think it was Detroit's first game outdoors all season. Kind of a crazy stat because they've obviously home stadium. They're always indoors because they have the dome. And I don't think they've played a team outside yet. And obviously their first one was this past Sunday against Green Bay and really dominated them from start to finish. What are your thoughts on Detroit right now? What are your thoughts on Green Bay? Obviously, if for our listeners not out there that didn't watch last week's episode, Brock actually put Detroit as his number 1 team in the NFL, and I think if you're a Detroit believer, I think this Sunday only proved that point even more. But Bank, I want to get your thoughts on the Lions first, and then the Packers.
Yeah, I mean I want to talk more specifically about Jared Goff here because his whole career is, he can't play outside. he can only play in a dome. He wins a bunch of games in the dome, and then as soon as he goes outside in not perfect conditions, he just plays horribly. I mean, you want to talk about getting a monkey off your back out in the rain, putting up, almost perfect stats again. I mean, good on you, Jared Goff. Just great performance out of him and great performance out of the team in general. The Packers are a good team for sure. I think that whole division is the best division of football right now. But yeah, I think the Lions are a really good team. If you're a Lions believer right now, you are living the high life.
Yeah, I mean, I think you could certainly argue that they're the best. They're playing the best in football right now. Obviously, that team is firing on all cylinders, and they even added someone on the trade deadline that we'll get to in a little bit. But man, if you're a Lions fan right now, you're hooting and hollering because it's the first time you've seen a team this dominant since I don't even
I don't end of
think
sentence.
ever. Well,
You've
maybe
never seen
I
a
guess
team-
the '60s and '50s you could maybe argue because I think they were good back then, but that's way before my time. That's before my parents' time. So I'm just gonna say this is the most dominant Detroit team I've ever seen. But I really want to get your thoughts on what are your thoughts on Green Bay right now, and kind of do you think they're a contender, or do you think they have other major issues that are going to hold them back?
I think they're a contender, but they need Jordan Love to be at 100%. If Jordan Love is not at 100%, I don't know how far they can go. And he was not on 100% last week. I mean, I think you would have had a better chance of winning that game if you put Malik Willis out there than a Jordan Love that I like right before the half. There was like 17 seconds left, and they got a however far bomb to Jaden Reed. I think it was like 43 yards, and they pan to Jordan Love, and he's like wincing, trying to like hobble down to try to be able to hike the ball, and then he just kind of gives up because he knows he's not going to be able to do it. If I'm a Packers fan and I see that, that's red alert right there. You're playing with your quarterback hurt, and I mean, who knows if he could get more hurt off that? Lord, please don't let that happen, obviously. But I mean, I think they can do some good things in the playoffs, but they need a quarterback that is going to be healthy.
Right, and I kind of want to get back to one of your first points is they like Malik Willis so far this season when he's been able to be in games, he has been doing very well. Like for like a backup quarterback standards, I don't think they've lost when he's either started or entered the game.
No,
Well, I guess
2-0.
take the
2-0,
Eagles
maybe
game out because he subbed in for a
Yeah.
play at the very end.
Okay.
But he started 2-0 last week against the Jags. He subbed in for a few plays at the end and had the beautiful throw to, I think it was Jaden Reed that kind of sealed that Jags game. As someone who picked the Packers to make the Super Bowl, I think Jordan Love has all the talent, all the tools in the world. But dude, he makes some of the most head-scratching interceptions I think I've seen from some quarterback, maybe other than Will Levis. I think Will Levis, he's in his own category when it comes to bonehead interceptions. Jordan Love is not that far behind him. And again, this is someone who picked Green Bay to make the Super Bowl out of the NFC because I was a big believer in Jordan Love. But they won't have any chance at that. He's going to have to clean that up. Still 6-3. They're still at a really good spot in their season. It's not like season's over. But getting beat in the fashion they did to the Lions was certainly not promising if you are a Packers fan. Another game I wanted to get to, Rams versus Seahawks. Rams starting to catch fire, maybe, with Kupp and Puka Nacua being back. Obviously, this game ended 26-20. Rams with the walk-off touchdown in overtime to Demarcus Robinson from, I think, like 30 or 40 yards out. Rams, I believe, are 2-0 since they've had both of their star wide receivers coming back. Obviously, they won the Vikings game, and then they won this past Sunday. My first question, do you think the Rams are going to make a push, like a deep playoff run? Because they're sitting at 4-4. They're second in the division right now, so they're not out of it by any means. Do you think this Rams team is going to be actually dangerous in the playoffs, or do you just think it's going to be a one-and-done team that gets bounced in the wild card round?
let me start this first for people that don't know, which is probably most of your audience. I'm a Niners fan. If the Rams or the Seahawks have no haters, I am dead. So I will be permanently preying on the Rams' downfall. So I cannot, in good conscience, put them anywhere near a deep playoff push.
That's fair. That's fair. One thing I don't even know if I said it. Puka went out like early in the first quarter, but just throwing a random punch and then just gets immediately ejected. So the Rams really had to rely on Kupp, who had 11 grabs for 100 yards, and old Chiefs legend DeMarcus Robinson, who has had a resurgence of a career since going to the Rams. He had 9 catches, 94 yards, and 2 touchdowns. I know you're a Niners fan, and I know you're gonna have your hates towards the Rams. I don't blame you for that. I would have the same for against any AFC West team. I think the Rams have the weapons on the outside and a well enough defense where they can make a deep playoff push. But they dug themselves a hole starting off 2-4. It's good that they have all their weapons back now, but they're really going to need to turn it around if they want to make a deep playoff push. And I guess we'll get to the Chiefs game in a second, but the last game I wanted to really cover, and this is not for like celebratory. It is for one team, but the other team, it's just sad. It ended up getting a coach fired. Carolina 23, the Saints 22. Carolina, I'm happy for Carolina. You know what? Not a whole lot's going on with the Carolina Panthers. Like we crash on them a lot on this podcast. Obviously, I'm not going to talk about the trade that they made 2 years ago. I've harped on that plenty of times. I'm just going to let that be. They get their second win of the year. Shout out Bryce Young for stepping in and outplaying Derek Carr, kind of. I mean, not like Bryce Young had a great game, but Bryce Young went 16 of 26, 171 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 pick. But again, same with the Josh Allen pick. I don't know if you saw the pick that Bryce Young threw. It was in the receiver's hands and then just got yanked out of. I don't put that one on Bryce Young.
Yeah, Leggett just got his chain snatched. That's all that was.
He did. And so Bryce Young really had only 1 touchdown and no picks, which, hey, doesn't turn the ball over. That's always good for the Panthers. But I think I want to talk more about the Saints and where this franchise is at this point in their existence. This was a team the last 5 or 6, well, really since Sean Payton left, they kept pushing the bill back that they knew they had to pay. It's like you have a credit card and you're making minimum payments on it and you're just pushing it back. The interest is piling up. And now they're at the point where I think this offseason they're over $77 million in cap space. So like they are beyond broke. And this team isn't good. It's not like if you're the Niners or something and you're pushing the bill back because you're like, oh, we can win a Super Bowl. This team is pushing the bill back and they're 2-7. So I guess I just want to really get your honest thoughts and honest reactions of the Saints this season and then kind of what their future has for them.
Yeah, I mean, maybe there's some bigwig in that front office that's gaslighting himself into believing it's just the injuries that are the problem. The injuries are not the problem. The problem is that you have no money and you are paying people that are not going to win you games. Well, they'll win you games, but they're not going to win you like enough games to make the playoffs. You can maybe win like 6 or 7 games. And I mean, even now, I mean, you just lost to the Panthers, dude. Like, I mean, that's about as rock bottom as it gets. You lost to the locale of the NFL for the last couple of years. I mean, you got to do some serious self-reflection there. You fired Dennis Allen too little too late, I think. You got to just kind of – you need next year, you got to just eat as much dead cap as you possibly can, wipe the books as clean as possible, start fresh. Because the formula is not working. It hasn't worked. It will never work. You got to restart. And you got to restart now.
Yeah, and while you were talking about that, I had to look at their cap situation just to see how bad it really was. And to be fair, them trading Marshawn Lattimore, which we'll get to in a few minutes, that helped him out a lot. I think that saved them 16 million next year. So they're going to be 61 million over the cap. But here are the following cap numbers they have for the 2025 season. Derek Carr's on the books for 51 million. Ryan Ramczyk, who isn't playing this year, like he's on IR the entire year, is on the books for 30. Taysom Hill is on the books for 18 million. Cameron Jordan, who dominant player, who's really good. He's 36 years old though. He's on the books for 20 million. I mean, again, the bills come due. Like the Saints have to bite the bullet. They have to suck for a few years, which I'm sure if you're a New Orleans fan is going to be rough because really the last 10 years they've been I guess I won't say the last 3 because Dennis Allen I don't think is a very good coach, but since the iteration of Sean Payton, like that whole era, they were a dominant team. They even made it to the NFC title game. They got hosed. I think me and you both agree that was pass interference on. Oh my God, I'm blanking.
Nickel Roby-Coleman.
Nickel Roby-Coleman.
That's the Rams.
Yep.
I'm a hater.
They were arguably a play away from making the Super Bowl, and they just couldn't quite get the pieces together. And now do you think they'll be worse than the Panthers next year? I guess that's a hot take. I think I might be on that boat.
I think it's going to be they're going to be one of the horses in the race. That's for sure. I mean, It's hard to look at this Panthers team right now. I mean, it's gonna depend on what kind of moves they make in the offseason. I think there's a world where the Panthers can be like not embarrassment to the game of football next year. But I don't see that happening for the Saints. There's a world. There is a world where the Saints are worse than the Panthers next year. And I think that's more likely than not, actually. Now that I'm taking thoughts and putting it into words, yeah, I think the Saints are going to be worse than the Panthers next year.
And man, if that happens, I don't even know. I don't even want to talk about that because I think that would just be so funny because we've been dogging on the Panthers for 2 years in a row, and if they have a team that is worse than them in their own division, for that matter, I think that is just absolutely hilarious. But last game I wanted to talk about. It's the most recent game. We're going to talk about it because I'm a Chiefs fan and I make the rules because Brock's not here. Sorry. I'm just kidding. But Chiefs win 30-24. Game went to overtime. It was a good game. Did you watch this game, Braden?
I watched this game, yeah.
Yeah, kind of a back and forth game. Bucks were leading in the fourth quarter. Chiefs had to make a late drive in the fourth quarter. Bucks answered with 30 seconds left. I want to get your thought process on the Bucks scoring that touchdown. Do you think they should have went for 2, or do you think they should have stood pat and kicked the PAT, which is what they ended up doing?
Yeah, you're playing the Chiefs, man. You go for 2. You do not take Kansas City to overtime if you can avoid it. Again, Niners fan, don't go into overtime with the Chiefs. Don't do it. Especially Todd Bowles, a guy we saw 2 weeks ago, keep his starting receivers in against I'm blanking on what team it was, but you know exactly what I'm talking about when they lost Chris Godwin and Mike Evans. How are you going to be that aggressive to keep your starters in when you're down like 28 points? And then when you're playing the back-to-back Super Bowl champion Chiefs that haven't lost a game since December of 2023?
Christmas Day.
How do you not go for 2 there? I mean, at worst case scenario, you don't get it, you lose the game. Okay, you're certainly not beating the Chiefs in overtime because there's devil magic in Kansas City. We already know this. Everybody knows this except you, Todd. Get with the program.
Can I make one point? And you might question my take on this, but I was thinking about this the other day, and I have to say it. If I'm the Bucks, I think what they did was the right call, if I'm being totally honest. Here's my thought process. There's 30 seconds left in that game. You're going to tell me that if the Bucks end up going for 2 and they get it, you don't think Mahomes is getting in field goal range with 3 timeouts in 30 seconds? We've seen what he's done to the Bills, okay? I don't need to bring that up. That happened 3 years ago. We've seen him move in 13 seconds. You don't think the Chiefs would have somehow found a way to be in field goal range to win that game? I think the Bucks had a better chance to take their odds with overtime and be up to a coin flip, if I'm being totally honest. Then they're up one, and Mahomes has 3 timeouts in 30 seconds, and the Chiefs are probably going to go down and get him in field goal range. And we know how automatic Butker is. I'm knocking on wood as I say that, but the next time he misses a game-winning kick will be the first time he misses a game-winning kick. If you get what I'm saying. So
Yeah,
that's my take
you.
of it. I totally understand the other side of it, where it's like you're playing the champs, you got to go for 2 in that situation. But I also understand the other side of it, of what Todd Bowles was thinking, where really your best chance was not like praying you get the coin flip, but praying you get the coin flip in overtime, because the way the Bucks offense was moving in that second half, they probably would have went down and scored and won the game. So that's my thought process on that.
I mean, it's kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't, because you see, yeah, like you said, if they go for 2, they get it. Yeah, you give the Chiefs 30 seconds, and they're probably going to go down and kick a field goal. But then you see this happen. I mean, I think either way they were kind of toast.
Right. I'm not saying the Chiefs would have. I guess there's a realm where they wouldn't have gotten a field goal range. I've just seen it way too many times over the last 4 or 5 years, where if there's a time, if there needs to be someone to get in field goal range, I don't trust anyone more than Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs offense to figure that out. But yeah, that's kind of really all my thoughts on this game, unless you have any.
I guess. Oh, I had it and I lost it. Oh, that's gonna make me mad. But well, guess it didn't need to be said.
I guess I have one more thought. It's the 2018 Avengers are back out in full force. Kareem Hunt went for over 100 yards. D-Hop went for 2 tutties. Travis Kelce had most catches ever for him at 14. Like, the 2018, this old Kansas City Chiefs team is finding a way to win games, which I think just is comical at this point, because no one wants it to happen. But moving on. Oh, did you have any thought?
I got it. I picked it up.
All right,
my problem is not necessarily even that they didn't go for 2, even though I just went on like a solid minute rant about how it's dumb they didn't go for 2. My problem is more that, I mean, how are you not going to be aggressive there? Like, you can't just pick and choose when you want to be aggressive. I mean, I guess you can. You quite literally can do that, but
Right.
it just doesn't make sense to take the aggressive route there, and then throughout like the rest of the past season have been aggressive. How are you going to not be aggressive against the Chiefs with 30 seconds left and a chance to win the game?
I will also add one more thing. This is the last thing I'll add to this game. The timeout that Todd Bowles called with 30 seconds left, I believe, was idiotic. Because I think the only way you can beat the Chiefs is like what the Ravens almost did in week 1, where there is literally triple zeros on the clock. They score a touchdown. If Isaiah Likely has a split in, they're going for 2. Like, there's no doubt in my mind Harbaugh is finding a way to go for 2. I think that's like your only chance. Where I go back to, if he doesn't call that timeout, and I know it's risky because a lot of things can happen when the clock's winding down, but you want to give the Chiefs the ball with as little time to even no time.
Yeah, I forgot about that timeout. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, that timeout screwed him over.
I mean, you can take the timeout with like, I don't know, 15 seconds?
15 seconds. Your play will run about 5 or 6 seconds. Then you give the Chiefs the ball with 9 seconds. Like, then it's tough. Then there's no guarantee that they get in field goal range, because 13 seconds is crazy as is. 9 seconds is a whole different story. That's one less play you can run. Then you start really sweating if you're the Chiefs. But that is the last thought I had on this game, unless you have any.
No, I've said too much already. For somebody that is not a Chiefs fan, the 2 times that I've been on this show, I think the 90% of the words that I have said have been about the Chiefs.
Hey, it's because I'm here and it's my podcast. I'm kidding. It's Brock's podcast too. It's just, hey, I'll give one shout out to Brock since he's not here, and I'm sure he wanted to talk about it. Shout out to the Cardinals. Cardinals are winning games now. They're doing their thing. Yeah. Good. Shout out to the Cardinals. Shout out to Brock Bierman for that. But moving on, trade deadline was yesterday. We had some moves. There were some big moves, I won't lie, but there wasn't as crazy as I thought it was going to be. I thought it was pretty tame. To be fair, a lot of the moves were already made well before the trade deadline. I'm referring to Devonta Adams getting traded from the Raiders to the Jets. D-Hop, obviously, from the Titans to the Chiefs. Deontay Johnson from the Steelers to the Ravens. Or not, Panthers to the Ravens, sorry. Still thinking he's on the Steelers. But yeah,
Might as well have been.
some of the trades I wanted to highlight, I'm sure you saw. Tre'Davious White, former, I believe, All-Pro or at least Pro Bowl caliber corner, is going from the Los Angeles Rams to the Baltimore Ravens for a 2026 seventh round pick, if I'm reading that right. What are your thoughts on this move?
I mean, Tre'Davious White.
He's past his
Tre'Davious
prime at
White's
this
not
point.
the guy he used to be.
No.
There's a reason why he got shipped for a future 7th round pick. I mean, anything's better than what you're rocking out there right now for Baltimore's secondary, but I don't know if this is. I don't know if. I think the Ravens already were good enough to win the Super Bowl. I don't know if this is enough of a security blanket to guarantee it.
Fair enough. We'll just get right into the big move. We talked about it earlier. Marshawn Lattimore getting traded from the Saints, who were, at this point, they're a selling franchise, to the up-and-coming Washington Commanders, who are now sit at 7-2. Marshawn Lattimore gets traded to them, along with a 5th-round pick for Washington's 3rd-round pick, 4th-round pick, and 6th-round pick. Kind of a huge trade on trade deadline day. You don't really see multiple day 2, day 3 picks rolling out. So shout out to the Commanders for being aggressive and getting a lockdown corner. Even though Lattimore's had his injury concerns, I still believe when healthy is easily a top 5 corner in this league. What are your thoughts on this one of Lattimore going to the Commanders?
Yeah, I like this a lot. I think Lattimore, again, he's starting to get up there a little bit, but he's still a really good player. The Saints needed to get rid of him, and if I'm the Commanders, you got to buy in right now. I mean, you don't necessarily have to do it right now, but this is about as good of a window as you've ever had since the 80s. So I think you got to try to maximize that as much as possible when you have a rookie quarterback, because when Jaden Daniels is time to get that new contract, you already know, barring something catastrophic, it's going to be expensive. So you got to get that ring now because you're not going to be able to surround it with as much talent.
Right. The most valuable asset in the NFL is a quarterback on his rookie deal. We've seen multiple teams go to the Super Bowl or win the Super Bowl with this scenario. Jalen Hurts was on his rookie deal when the Eagles made it. Obviously, Brock Purdy was on his rookie deal when the Niners made it. Mahomes is on his rookie deal. It is so valuable. Joe Burrow is another one I forgot. So valuable for a quarterback to be on his rookie deal and to be able to contend, because you have so much roster flexibility and you're able to make moves like that. And then kind of the last one, or unless you have another one, the one I really wanted to cover, Zadarius Smith going from the Cleveland Browns, who their season was going to the dumps, to arguably one of the best teams in the NFL, or the best team, depending on who you talk to, the Detroit Lions. Zadarius Smith gets traded in exchange for a 2025 5th and 2026 6th rounder. So what are your thoughts on this move? Does it push the Lions over the edge, or in your opinion, were the Lions already over that edge where they could win the Super Bowl?
I would say they already were over, but this definitely helps because, you're not going to have Hutch until maybe the Super Bowl. If not, he's out for the entire rest of the year. So I think having somebody to fill in for that until you can get him back is huge. And that's about the best bang for your buck for that spot as you're going to get. You only get him for this year, but I think that's really all you need him for if you're Detroit. I love this move for them. And again, Cleveland, like you said, the season was over before it started. So you gotta be able to get as many picks as you can. So I think really win-win trade here. I love it. We're gonna love to see how this turns out for him.
Yeah, some of the other notable ones, Jonathan Mingo gets traded along with the 7th round pick for a 2025 4th round pick. This one's been blown up all over Twitter just because a lot of people are thinking the Cowboys way overpaid. But I'll be a Cowboys defender for 20 seconds when I say this. Mingo is a young player. He's on the 2nd year of his 4-year rookie deal, so he has time to develop, but I still think this is an overpay. Considering what other receivers on the open market went for, even a guy like Deontay Johnson, sure, you could say he has locker room issues, but he only went for a 5th-round pick, and a guy like Mingo, who really hasn't proven much of anything in the NFL, went for a 4th. But I mean, other than that, there weren't any like crazy huge trades. Mike Williams to the Steelers, I forgot about that one. That should help Pittsburgh's wide receiver core out. Gives him and Pickens, gives him options. So, yeah, you have anything else to add on this past trade deadline?
No, I think you covered it pretty well. I think the Mike Williams getting out of that Jets receiver room is a huge win for both parties. I mean, the Steelers needed another receiver alongside George Pickens. Mike Williams is a talented guy, but I mean, the Jets receiver room was loaded. So getting out of that and being able to feed Devontae Adams and Garrett Wilson more, and shout out Alan Lazard, but you're buried in there, buddy.
Right.
But yeah, getting Mike Williams into a spot where he's going to be able to do more for a team that is looking pretty good, I think is big for him. And yeah, I'm trying to think of the other ones you mentioned, but
there weren't any other like huge ones on.
No.
I mean, like there were some little ones, like Khalil Herbert, I know got traded to the Bengals, and I think Khalil Davis got traded to the Niners. I think those are the only other like somewhat notable trades that happened, because all the huge ones like happened before the trade deadline. So there's not we've already discussed those a handful of times. So there's not a whole lot to discuss about that, but yeah. I kind of want to get into our next topic. We are halfway through the season officially. Some teams have played 9 games, some teams have played 8 games, but we're at the relative half point of the season where it's now time, in my opinion, to look forward to who's going to win certain awards. I'm talking about MVP, Offensive Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, Offensive Rookie of the Year, all those kinds of awards. And kind of where players stand, what the odds makers say, who's in the lead for these awards. It kind of gives you an idea of what the general public thinks is going to win the award. I'm going to start off with MVP. Right now, there's actually 2 guys tied for first in odds right now, with Lamar and Josh Allen, both at plus 300, and to round up the top 3, Pat Mahomes at plus 450. Braden, in your opinion, if you had to forecast, and we're in the middle of January getting ready for these awards, who do you think takes home the MVP?
I got Lamar winning it right now. I think he's looked fantastic this year, both as a passer and as a runner. I mean, the Ravens look dang near unstoppable after that 0-2 start. Yeah, I mean, he won it last year. He's probably going to win it again. He's looked incredible. I think this is his award to lose right now. Josh Allen is looking really good as well, but I don't know. I think Lamar's got this one.
Yeah, and I would argue he's having a better season this season than he did last season, which in last season he was already playing some of his best ball of his career, and he's on another planet right now. So good. I would also probably have Lamar at this point in the season. I think Josh Allen has a really good case though, especially if Buffalo ends up with like the 2 or 3 seed in the AFC. I think he's got a good case, especially like team wise. I'm always like a narrative guy when it comes to awards. I think when you look at like Josh Allen's team compared to Lamar's team, I think you could make the argument Josh is doing more with less, if that makes sense. So
yeah, I get you there.
So I would probably still roll Lamar Jackson. I would agree with you on that, but I wouldn't be totally shocked if Allen ends up walking around with this award as well. Moving on, next award, Offensive Player of the Year. Right now, the top 3 stands as Derrick Henry in the lead at minus 150, followed by Saquon at plus 250, and Justin Jefferson at plus 750, rounding up the top 3. Who do you believe right now would take home the NFL AP Offensive Player of the Year?
Once again, proving just how dominant the Ravens are right now. I have Derrick Henry winning this one too. I don't know how at the age of 31, it almost looks like he's playing some of the best ball of his career. He's looked unstoppable.
It's so annoying. The fact that we let that happen is absurd. Like, this is something you do in Madden. This is like, I know when me and you used to do Madden franchises, like, this is something that I would try to pull. I would get like
this is something I did in Madden.
If you have the most dominant backfield, like, you're going to win games and you're going to put up crazy stats. And right now, I mean, they're transferring that over from Madden to real life.
They're doing it.
They're doing the thing. They're playing some of their best ball of their career, and it's insane, especially for a guy like Henry who is in year 8. I think something like that. Year 9.
That's about right. I think so.
I would probably also have Derek, but I mean, if the Eagles, if they end up, what are they, 6-2 right now? If the Eagles end up at 14-3 or 13-4, man, Saquon's got a really good case. I don't think a guy like Justin Jefferson has a case. I'm sorry, I just don't think he has it. But man, I would also probably pick Derek. We're both picking chalk picks right now, but the awards are so tough right now. You almost have to go with the favorite when you're.
They have the best odds for a reason because they're killing it right now. There's still time, so things can happen. But I mean,
I'm not even going to talk about offensive rookie of the year. I think me and you have the same picks. I don't even want to. We could both say Jaden Daniels at this point, unless you.
Yeah.
Okay. I was going to
say. I'm not about to go on some Caleb Williams or Bo Nix holy trail right now. No. Jaden Daniels is a conversation for MVP right now.
You just named the 2 and 3 spot. So to show you how wide of a gap there is between number 1 and number 2, Daniels is minus 1350 and Bo Nix is plus 3,000.
Yeah. So I mean, that's how it should be.
For our audience that doesn't gamble and doesn't understand the odds, what I'm saying, if it's minus 1350, meaning you would have to put $1,350 on Jaden Daniels to win Offensive Rookie of the Year to win 100. Doesn't seem like very good odds. That's how much of a lock it is. Whereas if you did Bo Nix, you put $100 down, you win $3,000. That's not going to happen unless something catastrophic happens, which knocking on wood that it doesn't, because Jaden Daniels is a hell of a player. Do you have anything else to add to Offensive Rookie of the Year? Or
no,
that one's kind of chalk. We know
it's pretty open shut case here,
right? This one, odds makers also think this is kind of closed. Defensive Player of the Year, the odds stand as T.J. Watt in the lead with minus 135, Chris Jones at plus 1,000, and Trey Hendrickson. Shout out Trey Hendrickson at plus 1,100.
Shout out Florida Atlantic.
Right.
Florida Atlantic? Yeah, I think he did.
I mean, I'm probably going to pick T.J. Watt again, but man, if the Chiefs go 17-0, I think Chris Jones got a real shot at winning that award. But what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I have T.J. Watt winning this. You look at the Steelers right now, there are a couple games that T.J. Watt has single-handedly won them that game for. There's not a ton of other defensive players in the league right now that you can say that for. I think he is the best defensive player on ball right now. I think he's going to bring home the hardware to prove it.
Right, and a guy I would add that I don't think is going to be close to this award, I think should if he was on a better team, Dexter Lawrence. This dude has been an absolute monster this year for the Giants, and it sucks because he, again, plays for the Giants. We don't get a lot of media attention, but he's been one of the most dominant defensive players in the entire league this year. I think he's on pace for 18 or 19 sacks, which I think would be the most for a D tackle since Aaron Donald in his prime. So a guy that's probably not going to win it, but I think should deserve some respect is a guy like Dexter Lawrence. Got 2 more awards I really want to cover. Comeback Player of the Year. This one, the criteria changes every year. It's kind of like the NBA one, for most improved, if you know what I'm saying. The criteria constantly changes of who's deserving of this award. But the odds makers say Kirk Cousins is in the lead at minus 140, followed by Joe Burrow at plus 470 and J.K. Dobbins at plus 800. I'll start it off. I'll just make mine real quick. I'm picking Kirk Cousins, especially with how the Atlanta Falcons are playing. He has to win this award for me.
Yeah, same here. I mean, I don't know. The whoever votes on this award changes the criteria every year. So who knows who's going to win it? It could be DeMar Hamlin again, just off a legacy pick because he didn't win it last year. For all I know,
he's 4th in odds right now at plus 1,000. Just throwing that out there.
Of course he is. But yeah, I think Kirk Cousins is going to win it. If the criteria is what I think it's going to be, I think Kirk Cousins has got this one. He's playing great ball right now.
I totally agree with you. And then the last one I really wanted to cover is Coach of the Year. I mean, I think it's Dan Quinn just because what he's done with Washington. I mean, he's the plus 200 favorite, followed by Sean Payton at plus 750, and then tied at 750 is Dan Campbell, who, I mean, if the Lions end up going like 16-1 or 15-2, I think it's gonna be a tough discussion for those award voters to not give this award to Dan Campbell. But I think right now, as we sit on November 6th, I'm picking Dan Quinn to win this award. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think the exact same thing. I think you look at the turnaround Washington's had, a lot of it can be attributed to Jaden Daniels, but you look at the job Dan Quinn's done. If you want to know how impactful Dan Quinn has been as a coach, look at Dallas's defense right now. They're not nearly what they were last year with Dan Quinn. And Washington's defense this year, they were like dead last in like everything last year in defense. And now they're, I mean, not like at the top, but they're respectable. And adding Marshawn Lattimore is only going to make that even better. So I think I got Dan Quinn winning this one. Like you said, if the Lions somehow go like 16-1, I mean, how could you not give it to Dan Campbell? But this is one of the Dans is going to win it.
I'll propose something else too. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but we're at the point now in the season with how well this team's playing. We have to consider it. I'm sorry I keep bringing up my own team. Kansas City goes 17-0. I don't care what happens with any other coach. It's Andy Reid. Andy Reid is like, I'm gonna make sure, but I assume Belichick won Coach of the Year when they went 17-0.
It was 16-0 back then, but yeah.
Oh, 16-0, undefeated in the.
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to assume if you can lead your team to not lose a single game in the National Football League, you deserve to be the Coach of the Year. That's open and shut case.
It was Belichick. Point proven. I don't think it's going to happen because you have to play the NFL by a game-by-game basis. You can't look that far ahead, especially Kansas City's got some tough games coming up. But on the 0.1% chance it happens, I think Andy Reid wins that award. And I don't think that's up for debate.
Yeah, I agree.
Do you have any other thoughts on awards or what kind of where players stand? And
no, I've said my piece here. I think we can move on.
The last part of this,
did we have every single the same?
Yeah, we did. We did. It's tough though because like
were they all the favorite too.
They were. I might switch up. I might say Josh Allen is going to win, just because I think Buffalo right now has a better record, and I think again I said this a little bit ago. Allen is doing more with less. So I probably might roll Josh Allen instead of Lamar just so we can be different. So we're not chalking every single pick. But
they have the same record. They're both 7-2. But I see where you're coming from.
Lamar's got 3 losses.
Lamar's got 3.
Yeah, they're 6-3.
Am I losing my mind right now?
They're 6-3. But
okay,
Baltimore does have the head-to-head win over Buffalo. So if they end up tied at the regular season, they will obviously have the head-to-head victory over them. But kind of the last little part of the episode that I really wanted to go over, obviously, let's preview some of the games that we have upcoming this week. I've already looked at some of the games. I think we got some really good ones coming up for Week 10 of the NFL. Starting out with Thursday, Cincinnati at Baltimore, which, man, it's good to have another good Thursday night game because we're getting to the point now in the season where good teams don't play on Thursday night, and we get like some of the crap festas of the NFL playing on Thursday night. So Cincinnati Baltimore should be a great game. Last time they played, I think it was 38-41. It was a high scoring game, but I'm gonna make sure that 41-38. So high scoring game. If they can replicate half of that tomorrow night, I will consider that a good Thursday night game, especially with the ones we've had.
The bar's not high for Thursday night games. Any AFC North game is going to be a banger, and this should be no different.
Right. Some of the other notable ones I've seen, Buffalo and Indianapolis. That should be an okay one, with Buffalo being 7-2 going into Indianapolis. the man, the myth, the legend, Joe Flacco. Who knows if he can get the Colts turned around like he did with the Browns last year. That one is a noon game. Kind of the game I really wanted to talk about, though, for this upcoming week is the Sunday night game. This is going to be the best game of the week. I'm calling my shot now. Detroit versus Houston. In Houston, Sunday night football. I know Houston's down a couple of receivers, but I think with Houston having that 3 more days of rest, playing on the obviously last Thursday and not playing till this upcoming Sunday, I think Houston's going to be ready to play. That's my hope. That's my theory. Yeah. Any other games that you see for Week 10 or that you think are going to be good games? San Fran plays the Buccaneers. If you wanted to bring that one up, they play at noon. It's obviously in Tampa Bay. But any other games that you wanted to bring up for this week?
Yeah, I think the Bengals Ravens is still. I think that's going to be the best game. Looking at this, I mean, it's going to depend on how the Texans walk out of last Thursday's game. If they come out with a chip on their shoulder, ready to kick some butt, I think that's going to be a heck of a game. But I think the Lions are one of the best teams in the league right now, and the Texans are looking a little depleted. So we'll see how that turns out. Obviously, got to hope for a great game. Otherwise, man, this is. I mean, you got Giants, Panthers. I mean, we have not been nice to overseas.
Oh man, yeah, that's another. Daniel Jones versus Bryce Young. Woo!
I mean, you want to talk about a tank bowl? That's the tank bowl. Boy, you thought Saints Panthers was bad.
Yeah. Man. I get that the good teams don't want to go play overseas. I totally understand that. Like, I would want to fly that long over just to play a game, just to come back the same way. But man, we are not being nice to Europe right now with the teams we are flying. It felt like Jacksonville played 2 back-to-back games over in Europe. Is that right?
It was 2 back-to-back games, yeah.
And then we're sending the Panthers and Roger Goodell. I know that
Giants to Germany.
I know that a lot of the owners of good teams are like, hey, we don't want to be scheduled over there. But man, if you want to have any shot of having an NFL team over in Europe in the next few years, putting the Panthers over there and giving them to the Europeans is not going to make it any easier.
I think if we give the Panthers a European game next year, we might have another world war. I think they might have something to say about it.
If we got Panther Saints over in Germany or in London, oh boy.
Oh yeah, I would not be surprised if some officials over there would have something to say about that.
Right. Kind of wrapping up this podcast. We didn't get to it earlier because it just came across my mind. I want to go over power rankings. Obviously, I don't have graphics for this week. I apologize. I've been busy with college stuff and tests and exams. Braden, what are your power rankings for this week? Or do you want me to say it for you?
No, I can say it.
All right, let's hear it.
So I said the last time I was on, I'll keep saying it. As long as the Chiefs are undefeated, they're going to be my number 1 team. I don't even know if they look like the best team in ball right now, but they haven't lost. They're the only team that hasn't lost. So by default, they got to be the best. Second place, the team that I think is actually the best, the Ravens. They look real good right now. They look borderline unstoppable still. They have the MVP and the offensive player of the year, offensive player of the year. I don't know why I was thinking offensive player of the week sounded right, but I must just be hearing too much about that. I think they have 2 of the best offensive players in football right now.
Right.
And they just got a little bit of an upgrade in the secondary. I think they got to be at least number 2. Number 3, I really think 1, 2, and 3 are interchangeable. Anywhere you have them, I'm not going to be too mad about it. Number 3 is Detroit. They look real good. They beat probably a top 10 team, I still think, in the Packers last week. I mean, it took a game-winning field goal to do it, but another team that looks really good. Number 4, if you were to tell me that by week 10 I would have the Washington Commanders at number 4 in the
There we
league.
go.
I I I simply I'd ask what you're on if I could have some, because I mean I was not the world's biggest Jaden Daniels like hype man going into the draft, but man, he like leaps and bounds the best rookie that we've gotten out of this draft. He has I don't think it is that bold to say. I think he could easily be a top 5 quarterback in the league if he's not already. I mean, he looks incredible. He's taken this team to heights nobody saw coming. Commanders are 4th. And then number 5, I have the Buffalo Bills. Yeah, I mean the Josh Allen has a shot to win the MVP right now. He's playing real good. Yeah, the team as a whole just looks incredible. I think they are top 5 for sure.
Great power rankings for this week. I'll work on getting the graphics up either tonight or tomorrow at some point. But my power rankings for this week, again, I'm gonna make it quick. Kansas City is gonna stay 1 until they lose a game. They were dancing with losing that game last night or Monday night. Ended up pulling away, so they're gonna stay at 1. I think Detroit's 2. I understand that you have the Ravens at 3. I think Detroit has looked like the best team this season. I just can't put them at 1 because of the prestige and the history of the Chiefs over the last few years. I would have the Ravens at 3. I think the Ravens have a dominant offense. You could argue it's the best offense in the league, and I wouldn't bat an eye. I think their defense has a lot of work to do. Like, their defense is going to be their weak point of the team. It's unlike last year where their defense felt like won them some games. I feel like their defense might lose them a few games. And they've gotten close a few weeks. Obviously, almost lost to Cincinnati a couple weeks ago. Baltimore's got to work on that defense over the next few weeks. I would have the Bills at 4. I was bullish on the Bills before the season. I picked them to win the AFC East when it didn't look like they had any business to. I really like what I'm seeing from the Bills, and that's coming from a Chiefs fan who doesn't really care for the Bills franchise. I like the Bills fans. The franchise, I just can't stand it sometimes. But, yeah, they would end up being 4 in my power rankings. And then 5, you said it, you nailed it. The Washington Commanders have to be a top 5 at this point. It's not like they're winning fluke games anymore. They're winning in convincing fashion. They're 7-2. Like, we can't even ignore it anymore. They made a huge addition at the trade deadline. And yeah, we can't ignore it anymore. We're halfway through the season, and I can confidently say I believe they're one of the 5 best teams in the NFL. So those are my power rankings. I thought great episode. Great episode. Do you have anything else you'd like to add when it comes to this week or just anything in general in the NFL?
No, I think I've said my piece pretty much. Let's see. Hopefully, coming off a bye week, the Niners can look a little bit healthier. Maybe, hopefully. I don't know how much. I mean, most of their injuries were like long term, but I think Christian McCaffrey should be back. Mm-hmm. Hopefully, that should help out the offense a ton. I think Jawan Jennings was still a little bit questionable with his hip injury, but I mean, next man up, Ricky Pearsall. It'll be great, bud.
Yeah, and I don't really have anything else to add. It's going to be another good week. Chiefs play the Broncos, which should be an entertaining game with how good Denver's playing. But to wrap up this episode of the Sports Nerds, Braden Bankin alongside Dawson Livingston for yet another great episode of the Sports Nerds, recapping Week 9 and looking into Week 10 of the NFL season.